So tell me where you live and how you started making films.
Well, I live in Tel Aviv. My mother is a film editor. My father is a writer. And I published a novel and a filmmaker. So in a way I'm following completely the path of my parents. No rebellious spirit. But well, I was like really when I was 4 years old, I was I was painting the scenes from the well-known stairway scene from Potemkin of Eisenstein. So the connection to films was quite natural from this point of view. However, after the army, I was more attracted by literature. So I was working as a journalist and writing novels. Published 2 novels, and then I decided that right after the army, or 1 year after the army, studying philosophy in Israel, I decided that I don't want to live in Israel anymore.
Why not? Why not?
In a way, I don't think that I was in such a state of consciousness, but in a way, at the age of 22 years old, after finishing my military service, 22, 23, I traveled to the airport. I took a cab to the airport and with my staff, and I decided to go to Paris because from quite a young age I was a kind of fan of French culture, French cinema, French football, French whatever, and I think that in a way I felt that I don't belong to my country, that it's only by accident I was born in the Middle East, and that actually I'm European. And second, I felt that attaching my future to Israel is, at this period I felt it's quite a disastrous step. I remember that I was thinking, well, I was quite young, but I was thinking that I don't want that on my grave it will be written, live during the candidature of this and this prime minister. I didn't want to be... I felt that I wanted to deal with life like sky, trees, love, sex, I don't know, nature of human being, and not with peace contract or not peace contract with Palestinians, whether we'll give Gaza or not. I felt strangled by this place, so I left, and going to Paris, landing in Paris, kind of adventurous step. I think I didn't know anyone, and my French was really mediocre at the period. But I started in a completely obsessive way to study French. Each word I study, I had a dictionary of synonyms. For each word I study 10 synonyms, and all the time I was talking in synonyms in order to train my French. Because the idea was really that now I'm French. I must become French, and since my tool is the language, I must arrive I must replace my Israeli identity with another identity. And I didn't know Israelis there, and I avoided in a way their company, and I almost didn't arrive to visit to homeland visits in Israel. And when I arrived to Israel, because I had to, due to all sort of bureaucratic stuff, I was walking in the streets of Tel Aviv and talking to myself in French in order to distinguish myself. And yet, in the biggest cliche, I've never felt myself so Israeli as when I was in Paris. It was my most Israeli period, I think.
So, let's flash forward to this film. This is your first feature?
Yeah, first feature.
Right. What sort of preparation? You made shorts, you went to film school, you did theater?
Yeah, so I studied in Jerusalem Film School.
Oh yeah.
Cinematography Film School.
Wait.
Living in Paris, I saw during my 2 years in Paris, I was really quite poor. I didn't have a lot of money. I lived in horrible apartments and worked in horrible jobs, and ate the I think, the worst food in my life in Paris, which was.
How can you eat bad food in Paris?
Yeah, so I really succeeded, but really, I mean, my main time investment was going to films, and I watched in this period thousands of films, and I really remember I was quite lonely. I mean, it shouldn't sound so tragic, but I was quite lonely, so I was walking in the streets and talking to myself on all sorts of question of style, of form, and in a way, I think because I was a little bit isolated, I didn't have internet, I was quite isolated, so I really imagined myself that the main concerns of humanity is, I don't know, sequence shot or speed editing, things like
master
this.
takes.
Yeah, master takes.
Did you like Bresson?
Shot and reverse shot, or did I like Bresson? Yeah, very much.
Right.
Of course. And I read, of course, the kids' commentaries, and I was studying them by heart, etc., and quoting them.
So when did you decide to make a feature?
So going back to Israel, I studied in Sam Spiegel Film School in Jerusalem. During my period at film school, I've done 2 shorts. One of them was in Berlin, the other one in Cannes, and another medium-length film that was also in Cannes and was also theatrically distributed in Paris, in France. And then I started developing this, the idea for this feature film. I developed it also in the residency of Cannes Film Festival in Paris. There are
Ciné Fondation?
The Ciné Fondation, exactly. And
so that was 2005, right?
2005, I was in the Berlinale. It was a short movie about 4 Palestinian workers who kidnapped their Jewish employer, and they are doing him a kind of trial, blaming him with the crimes of occupation. And I had one day off, and I went, and someone told me, listen, there's a marvelous exhibition in a gallery nearby the Berlinale about the aesthetical side of political terror of Badomenov. I went there. I think after visiting there, this is in a way that was the genesis of this movie. So I started thinking about the movie back then, but really writing the script was more in the last months of 2006.
Right. So the initial concept, did it already have the 2,
Exactly.
the counter-terrorism elite force and the young anarchists?
Not exactly. Like the initial concept, as I said, the genesis was in this gallery in Berlin, and in this gallery in Berlin, well, the walls were full with manifests written by the members of the Badomenov and other political militants of the period. And what struck me back then was that they're writing about injustice in German society and in Western society in the beginning of the 70s or the end of the 60s. And what struck me back then was that I told myself that each word here is precise and accurate for Israel 2005. You could really transfer the dates and the locations from 70s Berlin to Israel 2005. And yet, this phenomenon, this enormous white elephant in the middle of the room, injustice, economical gaps, monstrous economical gap in Israeli society, you don't see them at the period, neither in the press nor in the media, and clearly they're completely absent in cinema and fiction films. So I tried to think why, and then in a way I told myself, okay, I'm going to make a film. There is such an injustice, I can speak about this injustice, but having this freedom as an artist, filmmaker, I can also imagine that someone would have done something, knowing that no one doing anything. But imagine that someone in Israel is going to raise up and say, okay, I'm going to do something. And this was the birth of this radical group in my film. Now, at the beginning, they were the center of the movie. The Policeman didn't really exist. Today, the name of the film is Policeman. But at a certain point, developing the script, I told myself, okay, it's clearly that if they'll do what they're doing, if they'll kidnap the people that they're kidnapping, etc., 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 at a certain moment will come a policeman that will finish everything. And then I started to imagine this policeman, how he looks like I imagined him sitting and eating, I don't know, breakfast or dinner with his wife. Okay, so he's married, not married, in his apartment. How does the apartment looks like? And then he's getting this beeper and he's coming and then...
So you went from the situation to, you went in depth into the character.
Exactly, and I started to be fascinated by this policeman. Afterwards, I must say that manhood and Israeli manhood is something that is fascinating me for years. I guess that maybe myself I have all sort of unfinished thing with manhood and with Israeli manhood, and I think that what manhood is a big thing, but I think that what's maybe unique for Israel is that you cannot imagine an Israeli man without imagining him as a soldier. And Israeli man...
Macho, a very macho concept.
Yeah, and Israeli manhood passes through the battlefield and the wars and the patriotic feelings and killing and dying in the name of the motherland. Yeah. I mean, the political and the physical and the sexual combined in a clear way in Israel.
But there's a very, very tender side to this policeman.